Hey, so today I'm gonna mount this Axon winch to my four-wheeler, my side-by-side. It's going to mount to this wild boar front bumper. It can mount in two different locations. It can go underneath here, and which I believe is going to be a little bit stronger, but this winch, or I mean this bumper, is supposedly strong enough to accept a winch. So I'm going to stick it up on top. For one reason, it's easier to get at, and the second reason, and most important reason, is it looks cooler. Okay, that looks badass. If I hit it underneath, you wouldn't be able to see it. Since this accepts it, I'm going to go with what they say and put it on top. I mounted this bumper so it has it's got 4 different bolts mounting straight to the frame of the four-wheeler, so it should be good. Now, the first thing starting off, I found out, and like all my projects, it's going to be a 2-part series because this plate right here, you can see D. It says D, sold separately. So I need this plate, and to put this, I believe that's called a fair lead, I'm not sure, on the front. And also, because the bolts that hold the bumper on right here, those are too high up, and I was going to put washers underneath. Those are too high up, and they lift this winch. It actually raises it up. So I was going to put a couple washers underneath to raise it up so the bolts did not hit the winch, but that's when I came to find out that it actually needs to have a bracket to mount the fair lead to. So I'm guessing that bracket will be thick enough to raise the winch up high enough to get above these bolts. So I'm gonna have to go on Amazon and buy that. I don't know why that doesn't come with it. On the back of this winch, you mount your battery connections from here to the battery. And they supply you with this. These are your battery connections. And what I'm gonna do is route that from here underneath the grill, and you can get below the grill, and I'll have to zip tie it to these cables, and then there's a little spot where you can shove them through, and they come out here. They come out right behind there. There's a little grommet that comes out, and that's where I also ran the cables that you need for the other part of the winch. This is the other harness. This one goes to the switch that is installed on your dash. So all I did was, there's one part on my dash. It looks like this. See how that part actually pops out? You can cut these, but this one's already ready to go. You just have to stick your hand underneath here and pop it out. And that's what I did here. You just stick your hand underneath this thing, this little cubby, and I pop that thing out, and then this is the button that comes with the winch. And on the back of that button is a little plug, and this plug snaps right into it. And now this mounts right here. And what that is it's a remote. So this will be able to plug in to there, and then you can walk away however many feet that is, 15 feet, and you can run the winch standing away from the machine. And both of those are already connected to the harness. And then this last one goes to the ignition switch, and it has a little inline fuse with it. So that other side of this, I've already routed up into here, and this plugs into the winch. right here, which it comes like this. And that's got what, like a foot of cable. So once I mount my winch, I'll route that cable through here up into this compartment, up into the compartment, and it'll snap into there. So now I'm just taking my razor blade to cut these perforations, this little perforated part, and then that'll accept. That'll be big enough for this hole. It fits right in there. I'll slide that in the back. So I've popped out this plug and I've cut this perforated circle out. Now I'm going to take this, which plugs into the back of the switch, and just route it through. And then just plug this in. And drop it in. And that just clicks in. And all these cords, once I get it all done, that's when I'll manage the cords and zip tie them and everything. And now this part just shoves through here. And I put 2 screws on both sides to hit the mounting screws on the back side. And I think what I'll do is flip this around, plug it in, and then mark those holes. Small nail, stick it in there, and mark those 2 holes. There we go. Now that's mounted, the switch is mounted, and then this goes to the ignition switch, which is right there. They're all grouped together. Now I'm taking this wire. This has to go to, when you turn the key, lights up the switch for the winch. And that has to go on the ignition. But it has to go on the spot where when you turn the key, the lights come on, but the engine doesn't start. So what I did was I stripped this wire and I touched it inside. Here's the ignition. This is the plug-in that fits in the ignition. And I tried each wire and stuck it, just shoved it in there until that light came on. When the key was on, but not turned all the way to start the engine. So I knew which one to use, and that's this one. Now what I'm doing is, and I don't know what somebody would do at a shop, but I'm just stripping this wire very carefully with a razor blade. And then what I will do is I will take this wire, and once this wire is exposed on here, I'll split it, and I'll stick this wire through that split, fold it over on itself, and twist it. After it goes through that split of this wire, I'll fold it over on itself, twist it, and then tape all the way across. So I'm just going to take my knife, and I have this stripped off now. And I'll just split this wire by sticking the knife right in the middle. And I'll just pry that open. Now I'll route this wire through the most logical spot, and then stick it through the split, and then twist it. And then I can just tape that individually, these 2 wires individual, and then I'll tape it again over the top of all of them. Now I wire houses and buildings for a living, so I don't do this kind of thing, but I can guarantee that this is going to be a strong connection by doing it this way. And here's a tip: always buy 3M tape, electric tape. Don't buy the other stuff that's cheaper, because it's worthless. So I'll just don't touch the tape too much, because I'll get my oils on it, cut it, fold it over the top, and make a real tight tape job. mash that down. I'm going to plug this in and kind of test it. The light on this should kick on once I turn it to the on position. There you go. So now I should be able to run it. You should be able to hear the winch run. It's probably better than any little factory connector. I know they have connectors that you can splice into other wires, but those things fail. I see that stuff all the time. So this can't fail, really. That's not going to become untwisted because you have it taped up. So, and we got good tape on there. So now I'll take the tape again and twist it over the top of all these wires. You pull on that tape as you're taping it. You kind of pull and stretch it, and it won't come off. So to route these wires, I had to take off this plastic shield, and now to route the battery cables, I'm going to take off this shield because I don't think I'm going to be able to fish it that far. I think it's just easier to take this shield off. So it's got these little plastic clips. You just take a flathead screwdriver, and they've been coming off fairly easily. You just pull the, I guess you'd call it like a pin. That once you push that in and push the pin down, then it wedges, it like mushrooms out. So I should be able to take this off now. So this just slides off. And I can just lay these cables down in here. Make sure I have enough to get to my battery connection. Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to fish that with all that plastic in there. So this, hopefully, will be long enough to get to the winch. So I'll, before I put this all back, I'll route these now. So I've routed the battery cables all the way around through there. There's a grommet, like I said. That comes in behind this plate, which you can reach your hand in and grab. The wires run up, and they pop out this hole back down in front of the radiator. And then I popped it out that bottom left hole, so then the connection goes right here. So those will be ready to connect when I get that mounting bracket. And now I can put this cover back on. That sets in here, and then this cover goes up underneath, and all those pins have to be pushed in. 3 there, and I believe there's 3 on that one. And then all the wiring has been completed. So I'm gonna try to finish this project up this weekend. We're back, and it's another crappy day. It's raining again, so I can't bow hunt. But what I found out was that I need a mounting plate for this winch. It did not come with one. I have no idea why. I guess because they don't know what four-wheeler you have or whatever, but a simple mounting plate, I think like this with maybe not these wings cut off, would have been something that they could come up with and give to you. But I didn't have a fair, I think it's called a fair lead mounting. You need this plate right here so you can mount your fair lead to it. So what I did was search the internet to find one. I could not find one for a Defender on Amazon, and I did find one for a Kubota side-by-side, and it looked like it would work. I thought that these wings would be a little too large, that they wouldn't fit in between these, whatever you want to call those, roll bar or whatever, but it does, actually. So what I need to do is, these mounting holes do fit these mounting holes, but I have to make room for these bolts. So I have to drill holes in this plate and match them up, so then I can drop these bolts through this, which still doesn't fix the problem of Once I do that, these bolts will still be sticking up too far and the winch will hit it. But the mounting plate that I bought came with these spacers. So these spacers will go in and they will raise the winch, I hope, high enough where it will not interfere with these bolts. And then the problem will be solved. So luckily I don't have to cut anything on this mounting plate. All I have to do is drill the holes for these bolts. All right, so I took these bolts out. What I want to do is drill the holes directly in line with those bolts. So what I'm going to do, set this plate on here, and I'm going to actually take the bolts that I took out of these areas and drop in here, because they're thick enough where once I drop them in, this plate won't move. Then I'm just going to reach underneath. Just see the bolt. It's welded right where my fingertip is. It's welded underneath there. That's the one I got to drill. So I'm going to stick a nail in there and just scratch the bottom of the plate on all 4 of those. So I got the plate drilled out, and I'm tightening up these bolts again. So now we're going to mount this fairlead. It comes with a nylon nut and a Allen screw. All right, so that's all tightened up. Now I gotta put the battery terminals here. There's 2 screws right here, and I'm sure it'll say positive and negative. Positive red, negative black. And then you just take these and slide these over the top, and that's what you get. Once you tighten them up, you can slide this back over the top of the connection. Then there was a plug-in right here that came attached to the winch. I routed that through to here, and that will plug in there. So now we're all done. We can try it out. So, oh, hey Rudy, what's up? So we can turn this on. Kicks on the button. We can take our cord, unplug it in. We can run it right here. Or we can use our little remote here. Out, in. Everything's working proper. But I just stop there and hook it over the top. Well, we finally got this project done after the crazy weather we had. Actually, it's taken me a long time to do this. I've had other projects going on that were more important than this winch, so I've been driving around all winter with it not working. And I actually got it stuck once, if you look at a previous video. So we got it going now. We'll be able to get ourselves out. Yeah, I sided this barn and cut down a bunch of trees for our cordwood house build, and I'm now splitting. I had to peel all these logs, and this is only about a quarter of what we've done, and now we're splitting it. So I've had a few other things going on, but all in all, it wasn't too bad, except for getting that mounting plate, the right one, and mounting that on. But everything works now, and we're good to go. He wants to go for a ride.